Hi Elke. This lesson is about making paper beads, and I mentioned this to you when we were doing Zoom, and I just now, like past hour or so, I made 8 beads because I didn't exactly remember how to do it, and I'm not happy with any of these beads, and I want to point out some of the problems with making them and show you the procedure. Now, first of all, I made this one, and I made it with thick paper. In other words, I made it with the cover of a magazine, and it was, I'll show you. It was the paper from Artful Mind, and if you look at this paper, see how stiff it is? So the stiffness of it made it difficult to, made it difficult to wrap the paper around the toothpick, which is how you have to do it. And so the good thing about thick paper is it makes a fat bead, and that's a nice feature of it. Thin paper, which is very easy to do, makes a skinny bead. But anyway, let's make a bead and see if it'll work with the camera set this way. First of all, move this paper out of the way, and I'll use this sheet of paper, and I'll back up the camera a little bit. Now the first step is to make the largest equilateral triangle from this sheet of paper with a base that will be the width of the bead. In other words, the base of the equilateral triangle will be the distance from the top to the bottom of the bead. So first I'll do that. I'll do it diagonally to give me the largest piece of paper to make the thickest bead. Now, you can see right away that this is not an equilateral triangle because the bottom of it is at the wrong angle. For that to be an equilateral triangle, I have to, an isosceles, not equilateral. It's got to be an isosceles triangle, which means that that angle and that angle should be the same. Now, I will take it and a toothpick, and I will wet this part of it with my tongue, just to dampen it to make it flexible. Having done that, I will place it at the center of the toothpick, and I will start to roll it. Now I'm going to take it away from the camera so I can get a better look at it to get it started. But this is the hardest part. Starting to get it to roll and not unravel is the difficulty, but you get used to it right away. Now I'm going to take it away from the camera so I can get it started. Now, it's started, and the trick is to hold it tight with one set of fingers and to turn the toothpick with the other, keeping an eye that the two sides come in equally as much as possible and not have it end up rolling to one side too much. So now I'm going to just keep rolling it. Now I'm going to take it away from the camera again so I can look at how it's coming. I'm halfway there. Now it looks like this, and I'm going to change the background color a little bit so you can see it better. Now in a paper cup, I've mixed up a mixture of half Elmer's glue, white glue, and half water, which makes it paintable. And I'm going to use that glue and a brush to dampen with glue the tail end of the inside of the paper so it'll stick down when I finish it. So right here, when I've got about 3 inches left, I'm going to take my paintbrush, which has been sitting in water, and I'm going to paint with glue the inside of the tail end of the paper, and then finish it. Now, usually by the time the very tip gets wound, the glue will have dried sufficiently that it won't always hold, and you have to re-wet the tip of it. And that is the bead. Later, we'll enamel it or coat it with glue, but for now, it's finished. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see that it's bigger on the left and blunt on the right, because the paper did not wound in exactly symmetrical way. So what I'll do is, before I pull it off the toothpick, I'll grab it like this and push and make it more symmetrical. You see I made it more symmetrical? Once I get it more symmetrical, I'll take a firm grip on it and pull the toothpick out, and then I have pretty successful, just a minute, bead. Now, you might not get a good bead until you make 4 or 5 of them, because I didn't get really a satisfactory bead until I made about 7. And there's one other thing I want to talk about with this lesson, and that is a curious question of geometry. And that is, a perfect bead, like a platonic bead that's absolutely perfect, would have to be made from an absolutely perfect isosceles, is it isosceles? Two-sided, where 2 sides are the same. Yes, an isosceles triangle. It will have to be a perfect isosceles triangle. How do you manufacture a perfect isosceles triangle in geometry? You can't really use a ruler, because that's a mechanical way of doing it. It's not a theoretical way to do it. So there's a math question here, and it's similar to that question that I asked you a couple of years ago of how do you draw a square with a compass? This is a similar question. How do you draw an isosceles triangle so that it's ideally perfect in your mind, an idea of it? And if you solve that math question, you might say, since I'm your art teacher, I can't ask you a math question, but I feel like asking you it. And so you get, if you answer it correctly, you get Ricardo bucks. And what are Ricardo bucks? Ricardo bucks are imaginary dollars with which you can buy an imaginary art collection. And the correct answer to that question will give you 100 Ricardo bucks. And with that, you could buy a cyber Rembrandt painting, or an abstract painting of Jackson Pollock, although you might have to put some of your own money in because it's so expensive. Or you can start your own collection by answering questions that I will put to you with each lesson from now on. So make a bead, and then if you're really interested in this, then we'll make a bunch more on Friday or Thursday. And I just, for the historic aspect of this, want to point out that the last time I made beads exactly like this was for Julie when she was 10 years old, and she still has them. And she's very happy with them. And she has them in a collection of things from when she was that age. So that is your lesson, and I will see you on Thursday instead of Zoom on Friday. Talk to you later.